Good morning, team. This is a little bit earlier than I had scheduled, but suddenly my personal life got very stacked with things that I have to get done in a timeline. So I am trying to fit everything in and still show up with training for you guys. So give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and share this into our active groups and we can rock and roll. Posting it in there. And posting it here. It's a BOD group, and it's also on our Facebook page in the event that you're in one and not the other. Cool. All right, so first and foremost, like I said, these trainings are a little bit different right now simply because I have soccer season with my son and it's kind of thrown off my entire schedule. I'm not available in the evenings on Wednesdays anymore like I used to be. So I'm in the middle of adjusting to that right now. It'll be done in February, but for now, this is just like the name of the game. So I'm working with it as we speak. So I'm going to open up the chat box on YouTube, make sure I can see your chats. But I'm going to make sure that the volume is not on, so I'm not hearing myself, because that feedback can be kind of hard. So if you're watching live, please say hi on our YouTube chat. And if you're watching the replay, please comment below. And if you have any questions, of course. So I'm going to preface this by saying that, hey, Beth. Hi. Yes, you found it. That I have really been in a deep exploration of like how to make this business work for me. And what I mean by that is that I happen to be in a season with my current pregnancy that has been extremely challenging. I've been dealing with things like antenatal depression and extreme panic and anxiety that is characteristic of my life postpartum, but I had never experienced prenatal. So I've had to make a lot of pivots in my life to account for the fact that this is happening. It's not something that I am happy is happening, but it is my reality. And I think being an entrepreneur, our job is to learn how to pivot more than anything, because things are going to change constantly. The internet is going to change. Your personal life is going to change. Your priorities are going to change. Everything in your life is going to change. That's just, change is inevitable. So the more adaptable you are and the better you are at learning how to pivot, the more success you'll have long term, because you won't be weighed down by the circumstances that are demanding that you pivot, and instead you'll be able to be resilient. Okay, so I want to open up this training with that message, that learning how to pivot and to be resilient is going to be maybe the most valuable characteristic and skill set that you develop as an entrepreneur. Because if one thing is certain, is that everything is going to change all of the time. And so for me recently, on top of all the personal things, one of the things that changed that really bothered me was Facebook and Instagram changed their privacy policy and their data policy. And I've always known when I use those platforms that the content that we share is subject to scrutiny. It's just something that you agree to when you agree to be on those platforms. And those platforms are also very effective for growing an online network marketing business, or business in general. So I use them and have used them, the apps, very consistently for that reason. But once this new data policy came out and I read it myself and I watched several videos on it, I realized I was no longer comfortable with the degree of privacy invasion that was happening by use of the apps. So if you're not familiar with that, I actually made a whole video on this on my personal YouTube channel that you can go watch. And if you haven't subscribed, it's youtube.com/Shakti Rios. subscribe to that channel. There's a lot of valuable content on there just for life. But it's a video that says it's, update to Instagram and data policy. When that happened, I had to delete both apps from my phone. And so that meant that no more stories, because you can access Facebook and Instagram from your computer. And with a couple of hacks, you can post to Instagram from your computer as well. You do have to kind of hack it a little bit, but it's possible. However, access to stories becomes something that's obsolete. And I was very heavily reliant on that to be able to market my business. But by the removal of those apps, I no longer had access to that. And what I realized in removing those apps from my phone, so Beth had to pivot right off because her Facebook and Instagram account were deleted without question and without warning. And this has been happening to a lot of people, and she lost everything on both of those platforms. And I think this is a very valuable teaching moment, that you should never rely on anything that's third party with your content or with your business. Okay. So I luckily have a blog that I have been growing for years. It was not very active up until recently. I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to it, but I have it. If you don't have something like that, a website that is your own, make one. There's so many ways to have one. WordPress, Wix, free website designers. You can start with a free blog. And I personally like blogging because it's a way to communicate with my audience and offer them value, as well as have a website at the same time. So that's just the way that I went, because I like to write and share content. So create something like that that's just yours. You'll have to pay for your domain. It's like $14 for a year. You'll be all right. For your name.com, this is what I recommend. I just kept it, shaktirrios.com is my website. And then really make your content first available on your website. And from your website, share to social media platforms. That would be my recommendation from now moving forward. I've always known the day would come when there could be a threat to our privacy or to our content, and I just didn't do anything about it. And that was irresponsible. So I'm telling you now, as a business owner, that having your own place to talk to people is very, very important. So with a website or a blog, people always know where they can find you if anything happens. And if you have an email list, even better, because then you have a way of communicating to all those people if anything happens to you. I happen to have an email list through MailChimp, which is also free. And I linked my MailChimp account to my blog, which is, I had to watch a lot of tutorials to figure out how to do that on WordPress. I have a WordPress site, but I did it. And so now when people go to my website, within a few seconds, they're prompted to join the email list. And so that's how I collect emails on my website. And that gives me two things. It gives me an email list to access people. Hi, Kari. And it also gives me a blog to stay in communication with people. That is my number one recommendation to every single person right now watching this training, everyone on this team. Become a real business owner. Have your own blog. Have your own thing, your own Wix site, whatever. And make it your own. And have that be the place you direct all of your traffic to. I'm still posting on Instagram. I'm still posting on Facebook. I'm doing it through a web browser now on my computer. But that has been great for me because it's cut down on the time that I'm on my phone. It's made me more intentional when I'm on the internet. And so that's been really great. And it's made my content better, actually. I currently have the most followers on Instagram I've ever had, doing no stories and creating just content that I can do on my computer. That says a lot. That says that the value of your content is the most important thing that you can post to your social media. And I post every other day. I'm not even posting every day. Sometimes I'll post every day, but right now my schedule is more like every other day, and I'll do 2 image posts to a video post, generally speaking. I personally like to create video content, so I do have a YouTube channel. And so right now my focus is on creating video content that is helpful and uploading that to my blog, and then sharing that to my social media outlets. Cool thing is with a place like Instagram is you can download an IGTV right from your computer to your Instagram. So let's say you do make a YouTube video, you can download that video, upload it to your Instagram, and then everybody has access to it on Instagram, and it's shareable. So people can watch your video and share it with other people when it's on IGTV, which is super cool. And on Facebook, you can just share your blog site, your website, whatever you upload into your blog, you can just share that directly to Facebook and drive traffic back that way. So that's what I'm doing due to the data policy changes and all this stuff. And it's been working really well for me. In December, I worked the least that I've worked in this business for the past almost 5 years. And I hit Success Club, launched a whole new offering, sold one component of that offering, created a calendar that I've always wanted to create and never did. And I'm selling that on Etsy. And it's been a very successful month, even though I haven't done a lot of work. And I think that there's a lot to say for that. And so the next kind of 4 steps are going to go into more of that. But I just wanted to share a little bit of backstory into some of the pivots I've had to make very recently that have felt scary at first, because I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to have stories. How am I going to market? How are people going to come see what I have? But I have actually found a great amount of success in posting and leading people to my blog post about 9-Week Control Freak, for example. I wrote a whole blog about 9-Week Control Freak, and I included the Sizzler video from Beachbody on that. And so every time I post, I'm like, hey, go check my bio link, which says 9-Week Control Freak. It's direct to that blog post. And I've had so much traffic to that blog post and people applying, and I hit Success Club this month. And so it's simply a matter about changing the way that we market and pivoting in a way that feels good. To me, that feels better to have people going to a blog post. So that's my plan from now on. Every time there's a launch, make a blog post, put the Sizzler video in there, put the talking points in there, make a button for people to apply to my job form, and bring people there so that they can get all the information. That way you're not repeating yourself. You're not having to talk about the same thing a million times. They can all just go to that one page, get all the information, and decide if they want to participate, which is like so awesome. And if you're talking to someone online and they're like, what is this about? You're like, no problem. Here's my blog post. You give them the link to the blog post, they go there, boom. You know what I mean? So it's content you create one time that you can repurpose a million times, and you don't have to talk about it all the time. I also made a page on my website. In fact, I can share my screen and take you to my website. I also made a page on my website for the business. So whenever I'm talking to someone and they're like, hey, you know, what is this about? I can just take them right to the link. I don't have to tell them anything. I created that content one time. Okay, here we go. So I made my blog on WordPress, and it was free. I do pay for a premium blog. I upgraded because I wanted to integrate podcasting into my website, and that was going to cost me more. But the first version of WordPress is free, and the only thing you pay for is your domain name. So I basically paid for ShaktiRios.com. I think it was $18 for 2 years that I paid for my domain. Okay. But the website itself is free. So this is what my website looks like. It's very true and on brand for me. It's very simple. It's very clean. Okay. So here's the first thing. I created a website that is blog first because I'm a writer and I like to share content, right? So the first thing people see when they come to my website is my blog, all of my updates, any videos that I've made. Here's my 9-Week Control Freak blog, any metaphysical stuff that I share, because that happens to be a huge part of my brand, right? So I want to show you, this is the blog post that I made for this when it was launching, and I made it on the 16th of December. I had a little image graphic. I wrote a little bit of text. I like using GIFs, so you'll find GIFs a lot in my blog posts. But I also like them because I feel like it cuts up the text, so it's not like really overwhelming to read. Then I put the trailer. This is the sample trailer that came right from our Coach Online office in here. And then I did some talking points. Here's the equipment that you're going to receive when you join. Here's what else is included in the fitness bundle. And here's what I'm going to give you when you join our studio, right? So, and here again, here's the email pop-up. So you're going to see, you know, it's asking people for their email address, because this is a way for me to stay in contact with them. So what does this eliminate? People don't have to pay monthly gym fees. You don't have to pay expensive trainer fees. So I'm just showing them how much benefit they get for joining a group like this. And then I put in some results photos that again came right from our Coach Online office. And what are their next steps? I told them exactly what to do. And if they have any questions, they can, you know, here's my health assessment form link and here's my contact form. Now, I like WordPress because it's very drag and drop. So the way that you create posts is just like you literally drag and drop content blocks on there. Do you want a contact form? Do you want a this? So I like it because it's simple. Wix is also super simple to use. I know a lot of people like to make Wix websites. Yeah, so just write on your blog and then like share it to your social media channels, to your MeWe, to your Parler, to your Vero, whatever you're on, Discord, whatever you're on, just make sure the content you create there, you're actually getting into those public spaces so that they can see what you're creating, right? And yes, Kari, I understand it can feel intimidating. I had to watch so many tutorials on WordPress site, because there's two ways you can do it, wordpress.com and wordpress.org. I recommend .com because it's more for beginners. Org is very customizable and can be very overwhelming. But I watched a lot of YouTube videos, how to set up my WordPress site, all this stuff to get to the point where I could do this. And of course, now after years of doing this, I understand how to make it look a certain way and et cetera, et cetera. But it's really not intimidating once you figure it out. And these days they're so drag and drop. It's so like, it's meant for people who are not designers of websites, right? So that anybody can have a nice looking website. So, and when it comes to your, like, Kari, a lot of your posts on Facebook are blog posts. They're long and there's a lot of feeling in them, and you have a great sense of humor too. So it's like, you could easily take that very same Facebook post, make it into a blog post, add a couple of GIFs that go with like your personality or whatever the content is that you're talking about, and then just share that to your Facebook page. You know, but then the content is on your blog. It's something that you own. And then, you know, you've seen me post on Facebook. I usually am posting funny things, snarky things, things of that nature, just to like connect with people and get traction and engagement on my post. But the meat of my content is now coming from my blog post. It's no longer coming from my posts, right? Yes, Kari. Yes, just take those same posts. It's the same thing. You can make them into blog posts. And your blog posts are not long. Mine are not long. If you've spent any time on my website, you know my blog posts are not long. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. This one was just a blog post on this video I just made for the full moon. Literally, it has a little introduction, a funny GIF, my 3 points very simply broken down with a GIF to go with each point. And then here's the video at the end. And then some announcements on the bottom. Short, it's just short. But it's easier to share this to your social media channels and have people come to your platform and read your stuff, right? So here's a whole page that I have that talks about our fitness group. So Live the Warrior Lifestyle, when people come here and they click on it, what they're going to see is information on the Warrior Wellness Studio and what it is that we do. Excuse me, this is taking a minute to load. I have a video I made here. Oh, that's cool. It tells you to subscribe. A video that I made when I did the Ultimate Portion group, which you can upload, or you can do you don't have to have a video. You could just do a generic post here. But I explained to them like what happens in this group, where are they going to connect with people, who is this group for, how much is the investment, and I give them a range because it depends. And if they want to join one of my groups, they can fill out a form here. Right. Like Kari's like, oh yeah, yours are short. But you know what it does when your posts are short? It's so easy to read. Like people are more likely to read something that's short. If it's really long-winded, I know me, I like to read and I'm still like, no, because it's overwhelming visually. So don't get caught up in that. But again, if someone wants to learn about what it's like to be in the Warrior Wellness Studio, I have a link. If you want to find out how to work with me in starting your own online fitness business, look how short this is. I made a very short text post. Here's the Misfit video. Here's the contact form. Literally the end. I can send this to everybody I'm talking to. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I happen to have a Patreon, so I have a page for that so people can join and figure out, okay, what is Patreon? What do I get if I join this Patreon community? Here's just a link to my YouTube video, and I kind of talk about the different videos that I share and what they can expect to find on my YouTube channel. Again, you guys are not going to have all this, but I just want to show you the versatility of having a website. I created an Etsy shop that I'm selling on now, and I created this calendar, which is amazing. It's a digital download calendar. I'm super proud of it. So now people can shop for it right from my website too, you know? You don't need to add me to your bot groups. I mean, you can if you want to. I will get overwhelmed with all notifications, so I'm not going to lie, because I'm running like 4 myself right now. So like it would be a lot for me to be in other bot groups. But if you have any questions about bot groups, you can always message me and ask me because we now have a team page bot group. So in the team page bot group, go ahead and post questions about running groups or whatever. You can also send a message through bot group as well now. So the reason I'm like, and here's my one-on-one coaching, which I just started offering now, right? So the reason these are so valuable, a website is so valuable, is because you can post everything that you do in one place. It's like a digital business card, but better because people can have details on like all the things, okay? So hopefully that is inspiring to you guys and gives you some insight. I'm gonna stop my share. Was that helpful to see like my personal website? You guys have probably already seen my website, but how I use it and why I've realized it's more important to drive people to my space where they can connect with me than it is to drive people to social media where I don't own that content. I don't own those people. I don't have their contact information, right? This is definitely a much better way to have control over your content. So I'm going to go over these 4 points very quickly. Did you design your website in blocks because ADHD? Yes, I designed my website to be very simple and easy to read, and because I have ADHD, yes. And I thought about other people going to my website who might be like me, and then will be like, oh, this is complicated. So I made it as simple as possible. All right. So point number 1, always honor your personal integrity. So this goes back to what I had to do because I didn't agree with the data policy on Facebook and Instagram. Don't do anything out of fear. Work your business out of love. So don't feel like you have to do things because you're afraid of missing out or because your business is not going to be successful or because blah, blah, blah. Fear doesn't give you anything. It takes away everything. But when you show up in the energy of love and generosity, you tend to be more successful always, no matter what. And no matter what the algorithm says or what these gurus are saying online about, Facebook and Instagram, don't fall into the hype. Like, honor what's important to you. And what's important to me is privacy. I am not okay with trading privacy and freedom for using an app. I'm just not okay with that. So whatever you do in your business, always make sure that you're honoring your personal integrity and that you're not selling yourself out for the sake of something because you feel like it has to be done a certain way. It doesn't. Number 2, ask yourself what sparks immense joy for you in this business and go all in with that. For me, creating really valuable content that I think is going to illuminate people's minds is like my number one. I love making videos. I'm now learning how to edit videos. So if you've seen my most recent videos, there's like transition slides and, text appears and stuff like that. I didn't know how to do that. I've had to research how to do that because I love making videos and that just happens to be a passion of mine, right? But if you love to write, then blog posts are totally going to be your jam, because that's going to be what sparks joy in you. So just, you have to figure out what it is that sparks joy in you. And for me, it's creating really amazing content, creativity and art, and also connecting with people and talking to them, meeting new people. I'm really passionate about that, and like just learning about them in general. So that, to me, knowing that helps me then answer number 3 and keep my priorities really clear. Number 3 is, when you think about sitting to work, where do you naturally want to spend your time? And so you've just answered that. If you answered number 2, you've answered number 3, which is, when you sit down to work, where you're naturally going to want to spend your time is what brings you joy. So I have blocks of time in my day where I sit down and I prioritize like 4 things to do in my day. One of them is usually creating content, either on my blog or on YouTube or a social media post. Another of them is connecting with my current clients, making sure that, they know either what's the product of the week, or, that they can come join me for a workout, or making sure that my clients, people who have already invested in me, whether it's my Beachbody clients or my private one-on-one clients, have my attention and are being served, or my Patreon clients as well, my subscription members. And then the other half of the time is meeting people and just adding them to my network, exposing them to my content, and bringing them into my world so they can decide if they want to work with me. And number 4 is, what could you tweak right now to give you more joy and also be of more value to your community? One of the feedbacks that I got from Lauren Ricks, which is my upline, was that I am the kind of person that is constantly tweaking and constantly searching for how to be better. And because of that, I've had success in this business. And that's 100% true. I am the kind of person who is constantly asking herself, how could this be better? How could this be easier? How could this be more joyful? How could this be more impactful? How could this be more valuable? And because I'm always asking myself those questions, the ideas always come, because I'm making myself available for improvement, right? If you get stuck in a rut and you're just like, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working, and that's all you're saying to yourself, then you're closing your mind to the ability to have something that could work for you. So I invite every single one of you to ask yourself the question, how can I do this better? How can I do this differently? Stop saying this isn't, or it's not, or I can't, and start asking yourself questions that begin with how. How is a really powerful word for your brain. As soon as you say the word how, your brain goes, must find answers, and it starts seeking. So how do I tweak my business to bring me more joy? How do I tweak my business to be of more value to my community? How do I tweak my business to be in integrity with the things that matter to me? How do I tweak my business to feel more in control? How do I tweak my business to make it simpler? How do I tweak? Are you understanding the value of asking yourself those questions? They change the way your brain works, and immediately you start looking for answers and you make yourself available for answers. Okay. So that is my number 4 point. Those are really my 4 things I wanted to talk about today. I went way deeper into like what my website looks like and why I use a website and why I love using a website, why I think everybody should have one if you're a professional. Having a blog and starting a blog is something anybody can do. It's very, very simple. And if you're making it a big deal, it's simply because you're making it a big deal. It's not a big deal anymore. It used to be more complicated to make and maintain. These days, it's like so easy because so many people are on the internet looking to create their own digital space. So it's become increasingly easier to access and maintain. So those of you that are on right now, do you have any questions about anything that I have said, either about the website or about any of the 4 points that I just shared? Please feel free to ask while you're on. I'll give it a few seconds because there's a little bit of a delay. Beth says, I love seeing your website and all the knowledge you share with us today. I really feel inspired now and self-kind and thumbs. Yes, perfect. And Beth, you're someone who has lived through so much adversity. Like you had your platforms taken from you, so you were forced to pivot. That would be discouraging to anyone. And I just want to reiterate that. Anybody in your shoes would be so discouraged to have something like that happen, but you have not let that take you over. You found a different platform to hang out on. You were messaging me about how to pivot. You've really taken a lot of ownership for your business. So I think you need to give yourself credit for that and really celebrate the fact that you've done that, because anybody else would have crumbled under the pressure of that. And you didn't, and you're homeschooling 4 kids and you're living through so much stuff and you're doing it, so really give yourself credit for that. And yes, Kari, it is, this is just another example of how we make things overwhelming in our minds. Like we're like, oh my God, making a blog, that's so overwhelming. Having a website, that's so overwhelming. Like, no, it's not. It used to be, but in 2020, now 2021, this is so easy to do. And if you want to be a real business owner and you want to own your content and you don't ever want to have the rug pulled from under you like Beth did on social media, or like I experienced as soon as this policy changed and I was no longer in agreement with it, then you need to make sure that your content is safeguarded and you need to make sure you have a place where people can connect with you and find you no matter what. Yeah, of course. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for hanging with me. I really genuinely wish you the best end of year. I know that 2020 has been insane on so many levels, but I truly believe that the best is yet to come, that we are entering an era of so much cooperation and peace and success. And I'm really, really, really thrilled about that. So my deepest hope for the team moving forward is that we claim ownership of our business, that we step into our personal power and go out there and help people and make the priority to live in integrity and help other people live in integrity, and not get so overwhelmed with the accolades or the, whatever, but just make being of service a priority in our lives, understanding that success follows impact. And if you can focus on making impact the center stage of your business, you will have success. That's how I've had success for all this time. Okay, so please let me know if there's anything particular you want me to train on moving forward. I'm happy to do that. And if you're not in our bod group for Team Meta and you don't want to be on our Facebook group, or you're not getting notifications, that's happening a lot on Facebook where people are not getting notified when I'm posting stuff for the team. That's why I made a team bod group. Okay, so go in there because you're for sure going to get notified when something gets posted there. All right. Yes. So glad you guys are pumped watching this. Awesome. All right, y'all. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day and week. Mad love.